friends, this is my second video on Budapest gambit, and in this video I am going to cover a main line of the classical variation, which starts with the move d4, knight f6, c4, e5, d into e5, knight to g4. This is the first appearing position of the classical variation. And now knight to f3, adding a one more protector to the e5 pawn, and after that black has two main choices between bishop b4 check and knight c6. We are going to look both of them. After bishop to b4, knight to c3. Now still black has two other options rather than the main line. Bishop can take on the c3 likewise, then b takes c3, queen e7, and queen d4 is a strong reply from the white. Black is pretty forced to play the h5. After that white can respond with the bg5, and after queen goes to the a3, rook c3 is gives white clear advantage. And other option in the black side is to play knight c6, but here white can simply play bishop g5, bishop e7, and bishop f4. This is a bad position for black. Now we are going to look at the main line, queen e7, and in this position I would like to recommend a bishop d2, because now if he captures on the c3 square, we does not have to compromise with our pawn structure. So we are looking at the main line like knight takes e5, knight takes e5, queen takes e5, and now only we are going to play a move like a3. Bishop takes c3, bishop takes e3, and now bishop is looking at the whole a1 h8 long diagonal, and also threatening to capture on the g7 when queen moves. So he must has to protect the g7 pawn with the queen. Queen g5 is the only logical response here. After that h4, harassing the queen. Queen can go to the h6 square, and now we are going to lift our rook to the third rank, rook h3. Right now black cannot go with the move like castle, because if he castles in this position, it is strongly made by the move rook g3. And if we can see this position carefully, we understand that black does not have his dark color bishop and white is playing with the bishop pair. So we can simply dominate a black on the dark squares. But the standard move after rook h3 is to play d6, threatening to capture on the h3. First of all, we are going to play rook to g3, threatening to capture on the g7, rook g8, only logical response, and rook e3 check, bishop e6, a developing move, and also stopping the check. Queen to b3, threatening to capture on the b7, b6 is the only move, g3, protecting the h4 pawn and making a room for bishop. In this position, white's play is very easy. He is simply going with the long castle and bishop to g2, where white's advantage is undisputable. Now we are going to check the other main line, which starts with the move knight c6. In this position we are going to play bishop f4, bishop b4 check, and now we are not going to play knight to c3, except that we are going to play knight to d2. Hence our bishop is not locked by our knight. Bishop is already on the f4 square. So now here black, in this position black has two choices between the f6 and queen e7. We are going to look the f6 right now. F6, e into f6, queen into f6, and right now white has two choices between the g3 and e3. It's depend on where you want to develop the light color bishop. I like my light color bishop on the e2 square, so I am showing this line with the move e3, queen to b2, bishop to e2, and directly castle is not a good option for the black, because after castle we can directly play a move like castle and c5, which is pleasant for white. So in this position the main move is to play d6. Now castle, knight to g5, and now white is going to play a move such like c5. Knight takes f3, knight takes f3, and bishop takes c5. In this position white is going to play a bishop c4, stopping black from doing a castle. Bishop to f5, preparing for a long castle. Knight to h4, threatening to capture on the f5 square. If bishop goes to the d7, this is not a good move for the black because his bishop is not doing anything on the d7 square. He must has to play another move with his bishop. So bishop goes to the e4 square. Now we are going to play move like queen to g4, threatening the bishop queen e6, and also stopping black from doing a castle again. So the d5 only logical response. Bishop takes d5, bishop takes d5, and queen h5 check. Here the only response from the black side is to play bishop f7 because he wants to keep his light color bishop in this position, and he also wants to dominate the diagonal g8 to the a2, and he has a pretty much play on this diagonal. So queen to c5, queen f6, threatening to capture on the h4 knight, queen to b5, threatening to capture b7. If queen takes h4, queen takes b7, we are regaining our piece. And now black plays a castle, knight to f3, rook f to c8, and if you look at this position, rook a to c8 is not possible because after queen b7, queen can simply go back. And after playing the rook f to c8, if we captures the b7 pawn, then it is strongly made by the bishop c4, threatening to capture on the f1. And if wherever we play this rook, he can simply play a move rook a to b8, trapping a queen. So here we are going to play rook f to d1, and after rook a to b8 we are going to play knight to g5, threatening to capture on the f7. If we look at this position, this f7 bishop does not have a good square, and white's activity is tremendous. So now we are going to look at the another main variation of the Budapest gambit, which starts with the move queen to e7, and here in this position we are going to play a move like e3, natural move, not allowing any kind of knight d3 tactics, and knight takes e5, knight takes e5, knight takes e5, and bishop to e2. Here black has several choices like b6, d6, bishop takes d2, and a5. We are going to cover as all of them. First of all, we are going to look at the move b6. After b6 we are going to play a move like castle, natural developing move, bishop takes d2, and queen takes d2, bishop to b7, placing a bishop on the long diagonal. And now we are going to play a move like the c5. In this position c5 is the strong response from the white side because b takes c5, queen a5, which is the main line, and we are going to capture on the c7. So knight g6 is the move, bishop to g3. This position has been already occurred in the several games. We are going to show all the games from this position in our next video. So here black has the only option, which is a move d6. After that b4, c takes b4, and rook a to c1, threatening to capture on the c7 square, placing rook to the 7th rank. So only way to stopping this to play c6. Queen takes b4, threatening to capture on the d6. Rook a to d8, only logical response. Rook f to d1, adding one more attacker on the d6 pawn. d5 is the only move to protect and keep the extra pawn. Rook to d4, castles. Queen takes e7, knight takes e7, rook a4, threatening to capture on the a7, so a6, and now rook to b4, keeping an eye on the bishop, because rook b8 is not a possible move because of the bishop on the g3 can simply capture that bishop. So the other moves are rook to d7, where we can play a bishop d3, and as we can see, white's all the pieces are perfect here in this position, and he has a lot of play. His king safety and the activity of pieces can simply better than the black and gives him a advantage equivalent to the pawn. Now we are going to look at the other main line, which starts with the move bishop takes d2, queen takes d2, and d6. Here in this position we can simply play a castle. After castles, b4, rook to d8, queen to c3, and here uh, as we can look this position, white's development has been al almost completed, and d semi open d file is in the white's hand, so black can continue with the move like f6, rook f to d1, bishop to f5, rook to d2, and after bishop g6, rook a to d1, we are going to double our rooks on the d file, and after the some time we are going to play a move like c4 c5, which is the main idea in the Budapest gambit from the white's perspective. Here in this position we have to look the some games for the ideas how to win this position in the game, which is we are going to cover in our next video. Now we are going to look at our another main line of the Budapest gambit, which starts with the move a5. After a5 we are going to play castle, d6, knight to b1, important retreat. Now we are going to keep our knight on the d5 square with the series of moves a3, knight c3, and knight d5. As black does not have much options in this position, so he is going to play a move like castle a3 and bishop to c5, knight to c3, and move bishop e6. In this position we are going to play a move like b3 to support our c4 pawn. Except playing this main line, you can also go with the after castle we can play a move like queen d5, and black is pretty forced to play a move like c7 c6 and weakening his own d6 pawn. So now we are going to look at the main line again, this position. In this position black is going to play knight g6, bishop to g3, and after f5 queen to d2 and queen f7. Now we are going to play a knight a4, harassing that c5 bishop, bishop to a7, and the important move here in this position is bishop to f3, threatening to capture the b7 pawn. Now after c6, d6 pawn is much weakened, and we are going one more attacker on the pawn with the move rook f to d1. Now black is hopeless to get his pawn on the d6 square. White can simply capture it and remain a whole pawn up without any kind of compensation for a black. Now we are going to look at the another line. Except playing a a5, black can directly went into the castle castles, a5, and now we are going to play a3 directly. Bishop takes d2, queen takes d2, and after move like d6 we are going to play b4. In this position white does not have to worried for the many things, as this is just a positional play. There is no tactical issues here in this position. So after rook e8, rook f to c1, and this is a pretty good position to play from the white's perspectives. Now we are going to cover another main line which starts with the move d6. This is the main response from the black side. In this position white is going to play castle, bishop to d7, a3, bishop takes d2, queen takes d2, and the important move is long after playing a f6, b4, and long castles. In this position the attacking chances are equal, and now we have to look for the pawn run. Who started the attack first wins the game. After b4 long castle, white is going to respond with the e4, and this e4 move is pretty much based on a pawn sacrifice. So we are going to look at that. After playing a knight to g6, bishop e4, and black must have to accept this e4 pawn, otherwise white can simply play a move like f3, and black does not get anything, and white can start his own attack on the queen side. So queen takes e4, f3 is the only move to harass the queen, and also the only best reply from the white side. Queen to h4, rook to e1, and after playing a king b8, white can respond with the move a4, rook h to e8, and now white is going to play move like a5, just going for the a6, and now after bishop e6 white is going to play a move b5. In this position white's plan is simple. Now he is going to play a move like b6 and wants to open some files and diagonals on the queen side. To hence black king is on the queen side. White's plan is to open the files and diagonals to attack on the black's king. So white is going to respond with the move knight e5, and in this position white is going to play bishop to f2, threatening to the queen, and the only logical move in this position is to play queen h6. If he want going to the play knight takes c4, bishop takes c4, and queen takes c4, then we are going to play a move like the b6, and after that whatever black may plays we are going to capture his pawn with the check, and rook e to c1 and rook a to b1 are the very strong threats. So he must has to play queen to h6, queen d4, threatening to capture on the a7, and as we look at this position b6 is not possible due to the a takes b6, and whatever he is going to capture, if he is going to capture with the a pawn, we can simply play our rook to the a6 square, and if he is going to capture with the c pawn, we are going to capture on the a7 with the threat of queen takes b6 check, and after king a8 queen a7 is checkmate. So his main and the only option is to play move like c5, b takes c6, knight takes c6, and queen to b2, king b8, and in this position white has to play bishop d3, And now white's plan is very simple to play his bishop on the long diagonal of h1 a8 with the move bishop e4 and the move a6. Thanks for watching this video guys, and please, if you like this video, like the video, comment and subscribe our channel for more updates. Thank you very much.